Welcome back, everyone. In today's Explainer, we're unpacking one of history's most terrifying, mysterious, and honestly downright brilliant battle formations. We're diving deep into the enigma of the Chakravyuh. This was a massive, multi-layered defensive structure used during the legendary 18-day Kurukshetra War, which, if you know your history, is famously detailed in the great Indian epic, the Mahabharata. To really wrap your head around the sheer terror of this formation, just listen to how the ancient scriptures described it. They didn't just call it a group of soldiers. They called it, quote, a hurricane or a tornado that sucks in and eats up everything on its path. Think about that for a second. Before an enemy even realizes what's happening, this massive human vortex shifts, constantly feeding in fresh troops while totally exhausting the opponent, both physically and mentally. But to truly understand how a military strategy this devastating came to be, we've got to look at the world that birthed it.
Section 1, Ground Zero, Hastinapur. Okay, let's set the scene. Every single mound and tree in Hastinapur just exudes the aura of the Mahabharata. Situated right on the ancient channel of the sacred river Ganga, this land was literally the epicenter of the royal conflicts between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. It's a place of profound spirituality, too. It's home to the ancient Pandeshwar temple, where the eldest Pandava, Yudhishthir, actually established a Shivaling to seek blessings before the war broke out. But what's truly fascinating here is the incredible spiritual diversity of this land. Hastinapura isn't just a Mahabharata landmark, it's a deeply revered site for the Jain faith, too. You'll find sprawling temples and Nishyayjai sites associated with the Tirthankaras, who are the supreme spiritual leaders of dharma. So you have this serene, incredibly spiritual landscape, and it stands in this stark, almost jarring contrast to the highly calculated, bloody warfare it would eventually see. And that brings us right to the conflict itself. Section 2, Krishna and the Great War. Tracking the history of ancient Indian warfare reveals a really fascinating evolution. We're talking about military tactics being documented way back in 1500 BCE in Vedic literature. By the time the Mahabharata's Yuddhakhanda starts detailing these incredibly abstract tactical formations around 400 BCE, we're looking at a remarkably advanced way of warfighting. And smack in the middle of this legendary 18-day war is a figure of immense cosmic significance. That figure, of course, is Krishna. The historical sources detail his traditional iconography so beautifully. You know, the dark or blue-toned complexion, adorned in yellow garments, crowned with a peacock feather, and always carrying a flute. Yet juxtaposed against that really serene divine imagery is his intense role as the cosmic charioteer, literally steering the warrior Arjuna right through a brutal, bloody clash. And it's during this exact war that one of the deadliest formations in history is unleashed. Which brings us to the core mystery of today's Explainer. We're pivoting hard right now from the realm of mythology straight into the cold, calculated mechanics of military strategy. So how ingeniously was the Chakravyuh actually designed? And what is the real mathematical complexity behind a structure like this? Section 3, the invincible Chakravyuh. To answer that question, we have to look at the 13th day of the Kurukshetra War, formed by the martial arts master Dronacharya specifically to trap the young, invincible warrior Abhimanyu. This maze was an absolute nightmare. Now, the ancient texts didn't actually hand us exact blueprints for it, so we have to turn to archaeology. Look at this 12th century stone carving from the Halebidu temple in Mysore. At first glance, it just looks like a chaotic, swirling mess of bodies and chariots, right? But scientists and historians have actually extracted the exact geometry directly from this carving. And when you extract that geometry, the chaos breaks down into a remarkably clean 7-layered structure. The black outer rings represent tightly packed infantry, soldiers equipped with close combat weapons like spears and swords. But the red inner rings, that's where things get heavy. We're talking armored chariots, elephant cavalry, and the absolute highest skilled warriors all clustered together to protect the core. But here's the thing. A structure is just a shape until you put it into motion. Section 4. Mechanics of a Death Trap. This is where the terrifying psychological horror of being trapped inside really hits you. The absolute crucial point to understand is that the Chakravyuh is a dual-purpose machine. Offensively, it sweeps across an open battlefield like a typhoon, literally shifting its entrance to slowly engulf a target. But defensively, if you place a high-value target right in the center, it transforms into a massive, exhausting, self-healing fortress. Think about it. Even if you manage to strike down a soldier right in front of you, the gap instantly seals back up. And if you're unfortunate enough to actually get engulfed, you're facing a relentless threefold attack system. First up is the physical aspect. You are constantly fighting progressively stronger, totally fresh troops the deeper you go. Second is the psychological terror. Your mental focus is just shattered by this illusion that the entire maze is spinning around you. And third is the strategic nightmare. The commander is actively rearranging the maze behind you, creating infinite dead ends. There's literally no way out. To see how this spinning illusion actually works, check out the movements here. Just one forward step by a single soldier triggers a massive chain reaction. Every single soldier slides forward to fill the gap. Guided by the booming sounds of war drums and conch shells, the alternating rings start moving clockwise and anti-clockwise. To an enemy trapped inside, the entire wheel appears to be spinning, completely stripping away their sense of direction. Now, to coordinate something this massive without the troops just collapsing into each other, that requires some intense computation. Which brings us to Section 5, the geometry of war. Let's peel back the final layer and totally geek out on the math here. The source material reveals that the foundation of the Chakravyuh isn't just a basic set of circles. It is a computationally precise logarithmic spiral. If you try to build this thing with standard concentric circles, the synchronized troop movement completely fails. It only works as a smooth, continuous sliding motion if it's based on a spiral. From that pure spiral, ancient commanders would generate 7 perfectly equidistant loops, labeled in reverse orders starting from the center. This specific spacing mathematically calculates the exact room needed for a soldier's movement. It literally guarantees that thousands of moving soldiers won't collide with each other as the entire formation tightens up. But here is the craziest part. Embedded right in the heart of the formation is a hidden seed pattern, an equilateral triangle. The vertices and bisectors of this triangle perfectly calculate the paths for those spinning rings. It dictates exactly where the outer infantry lines will intersect with the inner armored lines. So what this means is that this triangle seed gives the formation what mathematicians call dihedral three-group symmetry. Because it operates on a 120-degree rotation, this massive, complex structure can continuously rotate about its axis and physically move across the battlefield, all while staying perfectly, flawlessly intact. Okay, let's just take a step back and appreciate the sheer mathematical brilliance we've unpacked today. We are talking about an ancient troop formation governed by a complex logarithmic spiral formula. It's anchored by an equilateral triangle seed, it utilizes dihedral three-group symmetry, and it empowers commanders to compute nearly infinite roadblock permutations right on the fly. It is quite literally a dynamic, self-healing, computational machine made entirely out of human beings. How wild is that? Which leaves us with one final, truly mind-blowing thought to wrap up on. If the ancients could conceptualize and execute such devastating geometric perfection on an open battlefield, turning myth and strategy into a literal death trap, what other incredible computational marvels are just waiting to be deciphered in our historical and mythological past? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep learning.